My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I stared at the piece of paper in my palm. The hotel receipt felt like it was burning my fingers, but I couldn't let go. I couldn't look away from those two names printed in black ink. Nathan Rodriguez Victoria Martinez. My husband. And my mother. The Grand Plaza Hotel. Room 412. Romantic suite package. 2 nights, last weekend. The same weekend Nathan told me he had to work late on that big construction project downtown. The same weekend my mother said she was visiting her old friend Patricia in the next city. The same weekend I stayed home with Mia, making her favorite pancakes and watching princess movies, completely unaware that my entire world was crumbling, just 20 miles away. I sank onto our kitchen chair, the receipt trembling in my grip. This couldn't be real. This had to be some terrible mistake. Maybe Nathan booked the room for a client meeting, and somehow my mother's name got mixed up in the system. Maybe it was a different Nathan Rodriguez. Maybe I was losing my mind. But deep down, in that dark place where we keep the truths we don't want to face, I knew this was real. Let me go back to this morning, when everything still made sense. When I still believed my husband loved only me, and my mother was just a woman trying to rebuild her life after her divorce. Nathan had been rushing around the house like always, grabbing his coffee mug and kissing my forehead before heading out to another job site. His construction company had been busier than ever lately, which meant longer hours and more overnight trips. I didn't mind. We needed the money, especially with my mother staying with us for the past 2 months. "I'll be back late tonight," he had said, pulling on his work boots. "The Henderson project is behind schedule and the client is breathing down my neck." "Don't forget your jacket," I called out, pointing to his brown leather jacket hanging on the chair. "It's supposed to rain today." But he was already out the door, his truck engine roaring to life in our driveway. I watched him through the kitchen window as he backed out, his phone already pressed to his ear, probably talking to his foreman about the day's work. I spent the morning like I always did on Wednesdays. I worked on my marketing campaigns from my home office while Mia played quietly in her room. Around noon, I decided to tidy up the house before my mother came back from her real estate appointments. That's when I saw Nathan's jacket still hanging on the chair. I picked it up, thinking I might drop it off at his job site during my lunch break. Nathan always got cold in the afternoon, and I knew he'd want it. I was checking the pockets for his keys or wallet when my fingers found the folded paper. At first, I thought it might be a work receipt or maybe a gas station purchase. Nathan was terrible about keeping track of his expenses, and I usually had to dig through his pockets to find receipts for our taxes. But when I unfolded the paper, my heart stopped. Grand Plaza Hotel, the fancy place downtown where Nathan and I had our wedding reception 8 years ago, where we spent our first anniversary, where we talked about going back someday when we could afford it again. Nathan Rodriguez Victoria Martinez. Check-in, Friday, 7:00 p.m. Check-out, Sunday, 11:00 a.m. Romantic suite package including champagne service and couples massage. My mother's name. Right there next to my husband's name. I read it again, and again, and again, hoping the words would change, hoping I was seeing things wrong. But the black ink stayed the same, burning those names into my brain. My phone was in my hand before I realized I was moving. Nathan's number. Ring, ring, ring. "Hi, you've reached Nathan. Leave a message and I'll call you back." Voicemail. Of course. I tried again. Same thing. My mother's number. Ring, ring. "Hello, sweetheart. I'm showing a house right now. Can I call you back in an hour?" Her voice sounded so normal, so cheerful, like she hadn't just destroyed my entire life. "Sure, Mom," I managed to whisper. "Call me back." I hung up and stared at the receipt again, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold it. What was I supposed to do now? I couldn't just sit there staring at that receipt. I needed to know more. I needed to understand how long this had been going on and how I could have been so blind. Mia was taking her afternoon nap, which gave me time to search without having to explain why Mommy was crying and tearing through Daddy's things like a crazy person. I started with Nathan's dresser, his sock drawer, his t-shirt pile, anywhere he might hide things. My hands moved frantically through his clothes, looking for anything that might explain what I had found. In the back of his underwear drawer, behind a stack of old work shirts, I found another phone. A small, cheap flip phone that I had never seen before. My heart pounded as I opened it and scrolled through the messages. Most of them were between Nathan and a contact saved simply as V. Can't wait to see you tonight. Room 412 like we planned. V. I feel terrible about this, but I can't stay away from you. Nathan. Isabella doesn't have to know. This is just between us. V. You make me feel alive again. I forgot what that was like. Nathan. I dropped the phone like it had shocked me. These messages went back months. While I was cooking dinner and helping Mia with her homework and planning our family vacation, my husband was texting my mother about their secret meetings. I picked up the phone again with shaking hands and kept reading. The way you looked at me during dinner last night made me crazy. I wanted to touch you so badly. Nathan. I know, baby. Soon we won't have to hide anymore. V. Baby? He called my mother baby. I ran to the bathroom and threw up everything I had eaten that day. When I came back, I forced myself to keep looking. I found credit card statements hidden in Nathan's toolbox in the garage. Expensive dinners at restaurants I had never been to. A jewelry store purchase for $300 last month. Flowers delivered to an address I didn't recognize. The address turned out to be my mother's old apartment, the one she claimed she couldn't afford anymore after the divorce, the one that made us invite her to stay with us because we felt sorry for her. I found hotel receipts from other places too, the Riverside Inn, the Mountain View Lodge, the Downtown Marriott, all of them showing two guests, Nathan Rodriguez and Victoria Martinez. They had been everywhere together. While I thought Nathan was working late, he was taking my mother to romantic dinners. While I thought my mother was out showing houses to clients, she was in hotel rooms with my husband. I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by evidence of their betrayal, and tried to remember if there had been signs. Had they looked at each other differently? Had they found excuses to be alone together? Now that I thought about it, Nathan had been different lately, more distant. He used to tell me about his day, about the problems at work, and the funny things his crew said. But for the past few months, he just came home tired and went straight to bed. And my mother. She had been so helpful around the house, so eager to babysit Mia when Nathan and I wanted to go out. Except we never went out anymore because Nathan was always too tired or too busy. How many times had they been together while I was at work? How many times had they laughed about how stupid I was, how easy it was to fool me? I heard a car door slam outside and quickly shoved everything back where I found it. Through the window, I saw my mother walking up our front steps, her real estate blazer perfectly pressed, her smile bright and fake. She knocked on the door even though she had a key. Isabella, I'm home. I wiped my face and tried to look normal as I opened the door. My mother stood there looking beautiful and put together, just like always. Her dark hair was styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. She looked like she had just come from showing million-dollar houses to rich clients, not like she had been destroying her daughter's marriage. How was your day, sweetheart? She asked, kissing my cheek like she always did. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until she told me the truth. Instead, I heard myself say, "Fine, Mom. How were the house showings?" "Oh, you know how it is. Lots of looking, not much buying." She laughed and walked into the kitchen. "Where's my beautiful granddaughter?" "Napping." "And Nathan? Still working late?" The way she said his name made my skin crawl. "Yes," I whispered. "Still working late." I waited until Mia was asleep before I confronted them. My mother was in the living room watching her evening soap opera, acting like she hadn't just spent months destroying my life. I sat across from her, the hotel receipt burning a hole in my pocket. "Mom, we need to talk." She looked up from the TV, her face innocent and concerned. "Of course, honey. What's wrong? You look upset." I pulled out the receipt and placed it on the coffee table between us. Her face went completely white. I found this in Nathan's jacket pocket. For a moment, she just stared at the paper. Then she picked it up with trembling hands, like she was seeing it for the first time. "Isabella, I can explain this." "Can you?" "Because I've been trying to explain it to myself all day. And I can't think of any good reason why my husband and my mother would be sharing a romantic suite at a hotel." Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Real tears, not the fake ones she used when she wanted sympathy. "It's not what you think," she whispered. "Then tell me what it is." Nathan. Nathan has been helping me. After your father left me, I was so broken, so lost. Nathan was just being kind to me. We went to the hotel to talk, to help me work through my feelings about the divorce. I stared at her in disbelief. You needed a romantic suite with champagne service to talk about your divorce? The hotel made a mistake with the room type. We didn't ask for all those extras. What about the other hotels, Mom? The Riverside Inn, the Mountain View Lodge? Were those all mistakes too? Her face crumpled. She knew I had found everything. Isabella, please let me explain. I'm listening. But before she could say another word, I heard Nathan's truck in the driveway. My mother's eyes went wide with panic. Please don't tell him you know, not yet. Let me talk to him first. No. I stood up and walked to the front door. We're doing this now. Nathan walked in looking tired and dirty from work. He kissed my forehead like he always did, then nodded at my mother. Hey, Victoria, how was your day? Sit down, Nathan. My voice was cold and steady. He looked confused but sat down on the couch next to my mother. I placed the hotel receipt on the coffee table in front of him. The color drained from his face. Isabella, I can explain. That's what she said too. So explain. He looked at my mother, then back at me. It's not what it looks like. It looks like my husband and my mother have been having an affair for months. It looks like you've been lying to me every single day. It looks like you've been taking her to romantic hotels while I stayed home with our daughter. We never meant for this to happen, Nathan said quietly. My mother grabbed his hand. Nathan, don't! Don't what? I screamed. Don't tell me the truth? Don't admit that you've been sleeping with my mother? Yes, Nathan shouted back. Yes, we've been together, but it's not what you think. Then what is it? Nathan put his head in his hands. Your mother was so broken after the divorce. She needed someone to talk to, someone to make her feel wanted again. It started innocent, just coffee and conversation. But then you decided to sleep with her. She seduced me, Nathan said, looking up at me with desperate eyes. I was going through a rough time at work. We weren't talking much, and she was there. She made me feel important again. My mother stood up suddenly. That's not how it happened. Then how did it happen? I demanded. Nathan came to me, she said, her voice shaking. He told me he wasn't happy in your marriage. He said you were cold and distant, that you didn't appreciate him anymore. That's not true. Nathan jumped up. I never said that. You did. You said Isabella didn't understand you like I did. I watched my husband and my mother argue about who seduced who, and I felt something break inside me. These were the two people I trusted most in the world, and they were fighting over whose fault it was that they betrayed me. Get out, I whispered. They both stopped arguing and looked at me. Both of you, get out of my house, now. Isabella, please, my mother begged, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You're my mother, he's my husband, and you both chose to destroy our family. Nathan stepped toward me. Isabella, we can work through this. No, we can't. Get out. I heard Mia crying upstairs. She had woken up from all the shouting. Look what you've done, I said, tears streaming down my face. Look what you've done to our little girl. Nathan grabbed his keys and walked toward the door. My mother followed him, still crying. This isn't over, she said as she reached the door. Yes, it is. They left together, and I locked the door behind them. After they left, I spent the night holding Mia and trying to explain why Daddy and Grandma had to go away for a while. She was too young to understand, but she knew something was very wrong. I barely slept, my mind racing with questions, and my heart breaking over and over again. The next morning, after I dropped Mia off at school, I came home to find my mother's bedroom door wide open. In her rush to leave, she had forgotten to take some of her things. I knew I shouldn't go through her belongings, but I needed answers. I needed to understand how this had happened. What I found in her room changed everything. Hidden under her mattress was a thick folder filled with papers, bank statements, legal documents, and something that made my blood run cold. A detailed plan written in my mother's handwriting. The first page was titled, "Getting My Life Back, Phase 1 Complete." I sat on her bed and read through the most disturbing thing I had ever seen. My mother had planned everything. Every single detail of destroying my marriage was written down like a business plan. Nathan is unhappy at work and feeling unappreciated at home. Isabella is too focused on her career and doesn't give him enough attention. This is my opportunity. She had been watching us, studying us, looking for weaknesses in our marriage like a predator hunting prey. The plan went back 6 months, starting right after she moved in with us. She had documented Nathan's work schedule, his moods, even the times when we argued. She knew exactly when he was most vulnerable. Phase 1. Build trust and emotional connection. Be the supportive woman Isabella isn't being. Listen to his problems. Make him feel understood. Phase 2. Create physical opportunities. Suggest late dinners to talk about his problems. Wear attractive clothes. Touch his arm when talking. Make him notice me as a woman, not just Isabella's mother. Phase 3. Seduce him completely. Once he crosses the line, he'll be too guilty and confused to think clearly. Use his guilt to control him. My hands were shaking as I read her sick plan, but it got worse. Phase 4. Destroy the marriage from the inside. Make Nathan pull away from Isabella. Create distance between them. Make Isabella feel like she's losing him so she becomes desperate and clingy, which will push him further away. Phase 5. Take everything. Once Nathan leaves Isabella, I'll have him, the house, and access to Mia. Isabella will be alone and broken, just like I was when her father left me. At the bottom of the page, she had written, "Isabella took everything from me when she was born. Her father loved her more than me. Now it's my turn to take everything from her." I dropped the papers and ran to the bathroom to throw up again. My own mother had planned to destroy my life because she was jealous of me, jealous of her own daughter. But there was more. I found medical records showing that my mother had been seeing a psychiatrist for months. The doctor's notes mentioned severe narcissistic personality disorder and dangerous obsession with daughter's life. There were prescriptions for anti-anxiety medication that she wasn't taking. Instead, she had been crushing up the pills and putting them in Nathan's coffee. I found the evidence in a small plastic bag hidden in her jewelry box. Crushed white pills and a note that said 2 pills in morning coffee makes him more emotional and easier to manipulate. She had been drugging my husband. I found Nathan's real phone number written on a piece of paper, along with notes about his work schedule and the times when he would be most receptive to comfort. She had been tracking him like a stalker. The worst part was a letter she had written, but never sent. It was addressed to me. "Dear Isabella, by the time you read this, Nathan will be mine, and you'll understand what it feels like to lose everything. You've always been Daddy's favorite, always been the perfect daughter, always had everything handed to you. Now you know how it feels to have your heart ripped out. Maybe next time you'll think twice before being so selfish and taking all the love for yourself. You deserve this pain. Love, Mom." I sat on her bed, surrounded by evidence of her hatred and manipulation, and realized that my mother was truly sick. This wasn't just an affair. This was a calculated attack on my entire life by someone who was supposed to love and protect me. My phone rang. It was Nathan. "Isabella, we need to talk. There's something about your mother you need to know. Something terrible." "I already know," I whispered, looking at the papers scattered around me. "No, you don't. She's not who you think she is, and I think we're all in danger." Nathan's words sent ice through my veins. "What do you mean we're in danger?" "I can't talk about this over the phone. Can I come over? Is Mia at school?" "Yes, but Nathan, I found her plans. I know what she did to you. I know about the drugs." There was silence on the other end. Then Nathan's voice, barely a whisper. "She told you about the pills?" "No, I found them. Hidden in her room along with everything else. Nathan, she's been planning this for months. She wrote it all down." "I'm coming over right now. Don't let anyone in the house until I get there. And Isabella, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. 20 minutes later, Nathan was sitting at our kitchen table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red and his hands wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't know about the drugs until yesterday, he said. After we left here, your mother took me to a motel. She was acting strange, more controlling than usual. She kept making me coffee and getting angry when I didn't drink it fast enough. What happened? I started feeling weird, dizzy and confused, like my thoughts weren't my own. That's when I realized she had been doing something to me for months. All those times I felt foggy and couldn't think straight. All those times I made decisions that didn't make sense. She was drugging me. I reached across the table and touched his hand. Despite everything, seeing him like this broke my heart. When I confronted her about it, she completely changed. It was like watching someone take off a mask. She started laughing and told me everything. How she planned it all, how she hated you, how she was going to take everything away from you. What else did she say? Nathan's face went pale. She said this was just the beginning. She said she's done this before, to other people who had things she wanted. She told me about your father. What about my father? Isabella, your father didn't leave your mother for another woman. Your mother drove him away on purpose. She wanted him to leave so she could play the victim and get sympathy. She's been lying about the divorce. My world tilted sideways. That's impossible. Dad left us for his secretary. Mom showed me the pictures. Pictures she staged. She hired the woman to pose with your father. She followed him, learned his schedule, and set up situations to make it look like he was cheating. Just like she did with us, but in reverse. I felt sick. Why would she do that? Because she was bored with him. She wanted a new life, but she didn't want to be the bad guy. So she made him look like the villain and got to keep the house, the money, and everyone's sympathy. Before I could respond, we heard a car door slam outside. Through the window, I saw my mother walking up the front steps. She looked different somehow. Her hair was messy, her clothes wrinkled, and there was something wild in her eyes. "She's back," I whispered. Nathan stood up quickly. "Don't let her in." But my mother had a key. We heard it turning in the lock. "Isabella, Nathan, I know you're in there. We need to talk." She walked into the kitchen like she owned the place, smiling that fake smile I now recognized as pure manipulation. "Hello, darling. I hope you've had time to think about everything. I'm sure you realize now that Nathan is the real problem here." "Get out of my house," I said, standing up. "This is my house too. I live here, remember? And I think we need to discuss Nathan's drinking problem." "What drinking problem?" Nathan asked. "The one you're going to have when the police find you drunk and violent. The one that explains why you hit your wife and threatened your mother-in-law." She pulled out her phone and showed us pictures. Photos of Nathan looking angry and out of control. Photos of bruises on her arms. Photos of broken dishes and overturned furniture. "When did you take these?" I demanded. "I've been preparing for this conversation for weeks. You see, Nathan is going to have a terrible accident tonight. A drunk driving accident that kills him and leaves you and Mia all alone. And I'll be here to comfort you through your grief." Nathan stepped toward her. "You're insane." "Don't come any closer, Nathan. I've already called the police and told them you're threatening me. They should be here any minute." As if on cue, we heard sirens in the distance. "You see, Isabella, this is how it's going to work. Nathan is going to disappear, and you're going to need your mother more than ever. We'll be a family again, just you, me, and Mia. The way it should have been all along." The sirens were getting closer. "And if you try to fight me on this, I'll make sure you lose Mia too. I have evidence that you're an unfit mother. Pictures, recordings, witnesses who will say whatever I pay them to say." She smiled that cold, empty smile. "Welcome to Phase 5, sweetheart." The police sirens were getting louder, and my mother's smile was getting wider. She thought she had won. But she had made one crucial mistake. She didn't know I had been recording everything on my phone since Nathan arrived. "You're not taking my family," I said, holding up my phone. "I've recorded every word you just said." Her smile faltered for just a moment before returning. "Oh, sweetheart, you think that little recording will save you? I've been planning this for months. I have evidence that will destroy both of you." The police knocked on the front door. "Police, open up!" My mother straightened her clothes and messed up her hair a little more. "Remember, Isabella, Nathan has been drinking and threatening us. You're scared for your life." "No." I walked toward the front door. "I'm telling them the truth." My mother grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. "If you say one word against me, I will make sure you never see Mia again. I have friends in social services. I have evidence of your mental instability. I will destroy you." Nathan stepped between us. "Let go of her." "Don't touch me," my mother screamed suddenly, throwing herself backward into the kitchen table. "Help! He's attacking me!" She was putting on a performance, making it look like Nathan had pushed her, but I was still recording. I opened the front door to find 2 police officers standing there. "Officers, thank you for coming. I need to report attempted fraud and conspiracy." "Ma'am, we received a call about domestic violence," the older officer said. "Yes, from my mother, but she's the one who's been committing crimes." I held up my phone. "I have evidence." My mother appeared behind me, tears streaming down her face, holding her arm like it was injured. "Officers, please help me. My son-in-law has been drinking and threatening to hurt me and my daughter. I'm so scared." "That's not true," Nathan said calmly. "And we can prove it." "Sir, have you been drinking today?" the younger officer asked. "No, but I've been drugged. This woman has been putting medication in my coffee for months. I have the evidence in my car." My mother's eyes went wide. She hadn't expected Nathan to have proof. "Officers, I need to show you something," I said, leading them into the kitchen. I pointed to the papers I had found in my mother's room, now spread across the counter. My mother has been planning to destroy my marriage for months. She documented everything. The older officer picked up the papers and started reading. His expression grew more serious with each page. "Ma'am," he said to my mother, "these documents suggest you've been engaging in stalking and harassment." "Those are fake," my mother cried. "Isabella made those up because she's jealous that Nathan loves me more than her." "The handwriting matches other documents with your signature," the officer said, comparing the papers to my mother's driver's license. That's when my mother snapped completely. "Fine," she screamed. "Yes, I planned it all. Yes, I seduced Nathan. Yes, I drugged him. And you know what? I'd do it again. Isabella has had everything handed to her since the day she was born, and it's time she learned what loss feels like." The officers looked at each other, then back at my mother. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for stalking, harassment, and assault." "You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here." But as they put handcuffs on her, my mother's mask finally came off completely. "This isn't over, Isabella. I'll get out, and when I do, I'll take everything from you. You'll never be safe. Neither will Mia." "Are you threatening a child?" the younger officer asked. "I'm promising," my mother screamed as they led her toward the door. "I'll take that little girl away from you. I'll make sure she knows what a terrible mother you are. I'll turn her against you just like I turned Nathan against you." The officers stopped walking. "Ma'am, you're now under arrest for making terroristic threats against a minor." As they put her in the police car, my mother was still screaming threats through the window. The neighbors had come out to watch, including Mrs. Patterson, who was shaking her head sadly. "I've been watching that woman for weeks," Mrs. Patterson told the officers. "She's been acting very strange, taking pictures of the house, following the family's schedule, talking to herself in the yard." After the police left with my mother, Nathan and I sat in our kitchen in stunned silence. "Is it really over?" I asked. Nathan took my hand. "I don't know, but we're going to fight for our family, together." Outside, Mrs. Patterson was still standing in her yard, watching our house protectively. We weren't alone in this fight. 3 months later, I sat in the courthouse watching my mother being sentenced. Detective Johnson had uncovered far more than we ever imagined. The investigation revealed that my mother had a history spanning back 20 years of manipulating and destroying relationships within our extended family. My cousin Rebecca, who I hadn't spoken to in years, came forward with her own story. My mother had destroyed Rebecca's engagement by seducing her fiancé and then abandoning him once the relationship was ruined. My Aunt Linda testified that my mother had systematically turned family members against each other during inheritance disputes, always managing to come out ahead financially. Most shocking of all, Detective Johnson discovered that my father's affair wasn't the first time my mother had staged evidence. She had done it to her first husband too, my half-brother's father, whom I had never met. The pattern was always the same. Identify what someone else had that she wanted, create a plan to take it, and destroy anyone who got in her way. Your mother has what we call malignant narcissistic personality disorder, the court-appointed psychiatrist explained to me after her evaluation. She genuinely believes that other people exist only to serve her needs. When someone has something she wants, she feels entitled to take it, regardless of the damage it causes. The judge sentenced my mother to 5 years in prison for stalking, harassment, drugging Nathan without consent, making terroristic threats, and fraud. She would also be required to undergo psychological treatment and would have a restraining order preventing her from contacting our family for 10 years after her release. As they led her away, my mother turned to look at me one last time. There was no remorse in her eyes, no sadness or regret, just cold anger that her plan had failed. "This isn't over," she mouthed silently. But it was over, at least this chapter of it. Nathan and I had spent the past 3 months in intensive therapy, both together and separately. Dr. Martinez, our counselor, helped us understand that Nathan had been a victim too. The drugs my mother gave him, combined with her psychological manipulation, had made it nearly impossible for him to think clearly or resist her advances. "Predators like your mother are experts at finding people's vulnerabilities," Dr. Martinez explained. "Nathan was struggling with work stress and feeling disconnected from you, Isabella. Your mother identified those weaknesses and exploited them systematically." The hardest part was learning to trust again. Nathan had to prove to me every day that he was committed to our marriage and our family. He changed jobs to get away from the construction sites where my mother used to visit him. He gave me access to all his accounts, his phone, his schedule. He attended therapy sessions twice a week and joined a support group for victims of manipulation. I had to learn to forgive, not just Nathan, but myself. I blamed myself for not seeing the signs, for bringing my mother into our home, for being so trusting. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that my mother's ability to deceive wasn't a reflection of my intelligence or intuition. It was a reflection of her skill as a manipulator. Mia struggled the most with understanding why Grandma had to go away. We told her that Grandma was sick and needed special help from doctors, which was true in its own way. Child psychologist Dr. Kim helped Mia process her feelings and taught us how to answer her questions honestly, but age appropriately. "Will Grandma ever come back?" Mia asked me one evening as I tucked her into bed. "Not for a very long time, sweetheart. And when she does, she won't be allowed to visit us." "Because she was mean to you and Daddy?" "Because she made some very bad choices that hurt our family." "I miss her," Mia said quietly. "I know you do, baby. It's okay to miss someone even when they've done bad things." 6 months after my mother's sentencing, Nathan and I renewed our wedding vows in a small ceremony in our backyard. Mrs. Patterson was there, along with a few close friends who had supported us through everything. Mia was our flower girl, throwing rose petals and giggling as she walked down the makeshift aisle. "I promise to protect our family," Nathan said, tears in his eyes as he held my hands. "I promise to never let anyone come between us again." "I promise to trust you," I replied, "and to never let fear control our love." We still go to therapy once a month. We still have hard days when the memories surface and we have to work through the pain again. But we're stronger now. We know what real love looks like, and we know what manipulation looks like too. Most importantly, we know that some people will try to destroy what we've built, but we won't let them win. Our family survived, and that's everything.